Hello everyone and welcome back to more Knowing Wheel, episode 97, I think, of your favourite Formula 1 show. We're back this week. Of course, we've got car reveals kicking off very, very soon. So this is going to be the final of our winter trudge, I think we're calling it,
Yes.
of Formula 1. Of course, you know, we've had plenty of, we haven't had plenty of news over the last few weeks. This week isn't particularly different just yet, because, of course, we're waiting on all the car reveals to be kicking off. But as always, I'm joined by Jamie183. How are we doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm glad that we're reaching the end of the winter, which is always nice because we might actually get something to talk about quite soon, hopefully. But we're here anyway. We're here every week. You can trust us. And actually, I think the first car livery will be out by the time you watch this.
Yes, it will be. So we've now got to pretend we know what's gone on with the Haas car. I'm really surprised they've done that with that car, Jamie. I think that might be a technical innovation that will change Formula 1.
I think Nico Hülkenberg might win the championship.
I think he will somehow finish P4 every race.
Yeah, potentially. But they've got one pole to beat, so I reckon they might get 2 poles this year.
Okay, fair enough. They're
There
going
you
to
go.
hire Robert Kubica, are they?
Yeah, and Robert Lewandowski. I was trying to think of another Polish Formula 1
Fair enough.
or a motorsport driver, but I couldn't.
No,
so there we go.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But yeah, quickly, obviously, what we're going to do this year, we're going to do things slightly differently. Of course, I know in the past we've gone through and just every single car review we've done a little video on, because we're both quite busy with life nowadays.
Yeah, we actually have jobs now.
This
unlike
is
last
my
year.
job, so I'm the exact opposite, to be honest.
Yeah, true.
We've gone opposite directions with it. Each Monday, or obviously the video will go live on Tuesday, we'll discuss all of the car reveals that have gone the week beforehand. So that's sort of going to be the plan this year. So make sure you get yourself subscribed for that as well. It is going to be very, very good fun. But yeah, we've got a few little bits and pieces to go through news-wise, haven't we, Jamie? Before we get into the meat of today's video.
Yes, and we'll begin with a bit of Alfa Romeo news, which is always exciting, of course. Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas are here to get a couple of wins this season, probably, based on my predictions last year. I'll probably predict every team to get a win, maybe, in the next few weeks. But yes, as we know, they're becoming the Audi Formula 1 team in 2026. But Audi have kind of started making moves, and they've actually bought a minority stake in Alfa Romeo, like as of right now. So the logo may be on the car this year. Obviously, Orlen, who is the title sponsor, have moved on. We knew that last week, I think. So yeah, I don't think it's a title sponsorship, but
There is?
well, I don't think Audi is.
No,
is it?
Audi is not the title sponsor.
No.
Not yet, no.
But yeah, they will have a minority stake in the team, so the logo could be on the car. May be different because obviously the Orlen red won't necessarily be on the car anymore. It could be. Matt's obviously the one employed by them, so I'll leave it to him.
I think
Throw you under the bus with that one.
we could see Audi Motorsport red.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool.
There's always the potential of that, but of course, yeah, nice to see that, you know, this was always in the plan, that Audi were going to buy in a little bit more each year between 2023 and 2026. So, you know, the fact that the first one's gone through quite smoothly, and also as well, we were kind of unsure when it was all announced originally, but it is now confirmed that it will still be Sauber Audi when they come in, or Audi Sauber, a bit like obviously BMW Sauber, all those years gone by. But Jamie as well, of course, just mentioned there, they have actually signed a new title sponsor as well for 2023, and that is Stake, which is a rather interesting company ready for the new season that, from what I gather, has made a fair old chunk of cash money over the last couple of years. So Sauber have been paid.
Yes. Yeah, and I think it's good because you think even 5 years ago, that team, before the Alfa Romeo deal came in and Ferrari kind of got in bed with Sauber a little more than they already were, that team was really struggling. Like 2016-17, they were cashless. They had pay drivers for days, and now actually they've not got any. They're both very talented individuals.
Well, yeah, I think they're both very, very talented individuals, but I don't think you can argue still.
It helps that one of them
Guan Yu has been
brings a
massively
lot of
helped
money
by
in.
his sponsors. But yeah, I mean, interesting, of course, everything going on with Alfa Romeo. To be honest, all the news we've really had this week has either been Alfa Romeo related or previously employed by Alfa Romeo. They also aren't running a team principal in 2023, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, Well, they hired Andreas Seidel, didn't they? But was that for technical director?
So he is in a different role within the organisation. I've just got to try and find the correct terminology again, because it's all a bit alien, I think, to most of us sort of interested in the world of Formula One. Let me just see if I can quickly grab the article back up, because we're professional here.
Definitely had it ready before.
I did have it ready, but then I realised it would show up on the wrong screen and then it would break everything. So,
oh dear.
So the Alessandro Aluni Bravi, which I'll be completely honest,
it's definitely pronounced right.
First of all, definitely pronounced right. But if that doesn't scream trust fund, I don't know what will. Will be assisting Andreas Seidel in 2023 as a team representative.
Right. So it just sounds like different words for the same job, really.
Pretty much. But interesting, obviously, that they've not gone quite down the traditional route of just a normal team principal. However, Alfa Romeo's former team principal has been creating waves this week as well, hasn't he, Jamie? Fred Vasseur, the fun-loving guy, has said Ferrari are here to win in 2023. I'd look like a mug if I said anything otherwise.
Yes. Yeah, and it's... I mean, they were really scraping the barrel, I think, with the news this week, because this team have, 2 winless years in the last 40? So, something like that anyway.
What, Ferrari?
Oh, no, more than that, isn't it?
It's
about
loads
4 or 5.
more than
that. Yeah, I forgot about that. But, we know they're going to probably win races. I would put a decent odds on that, to be fair. And yeah, if he was like, oh no, we're going to do rubbish this year, I don't have any hope, that would be awful. He's in his first month at a new job. So, yeah, you've kind of got to say that. But, I mean, hopefully Ferrari can be a bit more serious than they have been in the past. But we'll have to wait and see.
We certainly will. So, as you will have probably read by the title of this video, we're going to be going through. Now, we'll be honest, we'd had originally planned for this to be episode 100 as kind of a special show. But because of the way podcasts have lined up and obviously car reveals, this is kind of going to be the episode 100 special 3 episodes early. We don't know how long this is going to take, but we are going to be doing an F1 season tier list from 2010 to 2022. We've used the game templates just because it seemed a whole lot easier, and bringing a little bit of nostalgia as well. But quickly, before we do that, I'm going to shoehorn in Jamie. He wanted me to give him a quiz this week. We completely forgot about it last week. So, I'm going to try and bring these two back together, Jamie. Of course, 2010, the start of a new generation in Formula One. Bahrain, of course, hosted the season opener that year.
It did.
However, your quiz today, Mr. 183, is, as I click the wrong button, there we go. You are going to name me. You can go in either from oldest to most recent, or most recent to oldest. Can
I do a random order?
You cannot do a random order.
Okay.
I'm banning that today. You have got to give me every single winner of the Bahrain Grand Prix since its inception.
I should do all right at this.
You should do all right at this. I was looking
through. Can you tell me what year was the first year?
I could tell you that, but you're going to run from 2022
I think
backwards.
I know. Okay, I think I know what year the first year was, but I'll just keep going. Cool. 2022. How long have I got?
Yeah, as long as you need.
Oh, great. Okay, 2022 Leclerc.
Yep.
2021 Hamilton.
Yep.
But it should have been Verstappen if Hamilton wasn't qualifying cheats.
It should have been Hamilton.
2020 official Bahrain Grand Prix was Hamilton.
Correct.
Sakir loop was Perez.
Yep.
Which doesn't really count, but there we go. Just threw that in there. 2019. What race was that? Oh, that was the one where Ferrari threw away 1-2. So it was Hamilton from Bottas. Yeah. 2018. Ooh, I believe that was Vettel's second year winning.
Correct.
For Ferrari. So 2017 was also Vettel.
Correct. So 2018, of course, was, I think, an often forgotten race for actually that could
have been
very
good. Yeah.
But it was
Bottas should have sent it on the last lap. Yeah, 2017 Seb as well for Ferrari. 2016 Nico Rosberg won after Hamilton got blown up by Bottas at turn 1.
That was when Bottas did send it when he shouldn't have.
yeah, from like 6th on the grid and hit Hamilton, who started on pole. 20, what year is that? 15 was Hamilton.
Correct.
From Raikkonen, who should have won because, Hamilton had a brake-by-wire failure on the last lap and still won. 14 was obviously the battle of the Silver Arrows, the race I refused to watch back because Rosberg lost out and Hulkenberg did lost out as well. So, so it was Hamilton 2014. 2013 and 2012 had exactly the same top three, which is a bit weird. So it was Vettel won both of those from Raikkonen and Grosjean in that order. 2011, the race did not happen because of protests.
Correct. The Bahraini uprising.
Yeah, 2010, which was what started this quiz apparently. Hang on. Vettel had a failure, so it was Alonso in his first race for Ferrari.
Correct.
Ahead of Massa and Hamilton. 2009, Jensen Button. From Vettel and Trulli on the pole sitter, Jarno Trulli. 08. This is testing my knowledge here.
Bear in mind, when you get one of these wrong, it's over.
I know. So 08, Hamilton drove up the back of Alonso, so it wasn't him. It was either Massa, Raikkonen, or... No, it wasn't Kovalainen.
It wasn't Kovalainen.
So it was either Massa or Raikkonen. Ooh, I think it was Massa.
Correct.
Oh, that was close. 07... Again, that was McLaren v Ferrari. Who would have won in 07? Well, it wasn't Hamilton because he got his first win in Canada. Bahrain 2007. Well, I don't remember nothing about this race.
You were 6 years old in your defence.
Yeah, true. Let's go for Alonso.
Incorrect, my friend.
Oh, was it Raikkonen?
Incorrect. Nope.
Oh, it was Massa again.
It was
wasn't
Felipe Massa did the double.
That's annoying.
Alonso won the 2 years prior to that, and Michael Schumacher took the inaugural.
I think I did well.
GP. You did well. You did pretty well there. I think it was 14 correct answers.
Yeah.
Which is not bad going. But let's take it back then to Fernando Alonso's third win around the Bahrain Grand Prix. Like we said, the start of a new generation in Formula One. Mercedes back after over 50 years. Michael Schumacher back after a small break of 4 years from Formula One. Nico Hulkenberg debuted in slightly less exciting fashion. 3 new teams on the grid as well. 24 cars. Although HRT were beyond useless, weren't they? Because they were still building the car.
8 seconds off the pace.
8 seconds off the pace. But it was also the Bahrain endurance layout, which was awful.
Yes. And it's a good job they went back to the original 2 years later.
It certainly was. Let's talk about the 2010 F1 season, though. Of course, a lot of these are going to be basically remembered for the championship battles, aren't they?
Yes.
And 2010, out of every single one of these, had the best battle of any of them. Of course.
Depends how you quantify.
Well, it had the most drivers in the battle,
yes,
sorry.
Yeah. I think I'm going to be controversial immediately in this list.
Okay.
2010 is massively benefited by nostalgia because the individual races, other than the wet races, which there were a weird amount of, because those were quite good, the dry races were just boring. Or basically all out. Just because there was no DRS, the cars couldn't follow, there's no KERS. They basically, after lap 1, were no overtakes.
Some of the cars had KERS.
They didn't.
They did. Some of them did, I swear.
They got... 09 had KERS, and none of them... They had the option. They had the option, but no one wanted it, because it was really badly optimised back then.
Yes.
But
you are right.
The individual races were just pretty trash. Obviously, the overarching battle of the season was excellent. I'm not denying that. And the wet races were quality as well, the likes of Australia, China, Korea. Spa was wet as well. So it was an enjoyable season, but if you sat down for an hour and a half to watch any of the 17 races that didn't have wet weather in them, you would be quite bored. So I don't think it'd go lower than decent, but it wasn't... top 2 is a bit too much for it, I think. which maybe is controversial, but let me know what you think.
It's very controversial, isn't it? But you are pretty much spot on. I mean, there were quite a lot of storylines throughout the season as well. Let's not forget. Of course, you had the real start of Red Bull's run of great form. The real test of Sebastian Vettel. I mean, Red Bull obviously that year qualifying wise were utterly dominant.
Apart
from Brazil and
Canada, Singapore, Monza.
Yeah,
there you go. There's the 4.
Yes, spot on. That was very good. Of course, I mean, just looking through that season, though, there are so many memories, isn't there? Of course, Jenson Button becoming the first driver to win back-to-back Australian Grand Prix with different teams, if I remember correctly, of all time.
He would have become the first driver to win back-to-back championships with different teams since Fangio.
He would have,
win.
but he didn't win. Of course, you had, looking further throughout the year, of course, the controversy between the Red Bulls at Turkey and then Silverstone. Not bad for a number 2 driver.
The Ferraris at Hockenheim. That was Ferrari
at Hockenheim as well. Fernando is faster than you. It certainly was quite an up and down season, wasn't it? Of course, no driver won a race whilst leading the World Championship, which is always an absolutely mad stat as well.
Is that true?
Yeah. No driver won a race whilst leading the World Championship.
That's incredible. I didn't actually know that. Fair.
The big thing, wasn't it?
The Red Bull, to be fair though, should have absolutely battered that season.
Very true. It was just their
but they had
reliability.
horrendous reliability, and Vettel and Webber both made a few mistakes individually as well.
Yes, I think often they are, potentially even on this show, unfairly criticised for how many mistakes they made.
Yeah.
But, had either of them ran a slightly less... they both, like I said, struggled with reliability, but they both also had quite a few errors over the course of the year that meant that either of them could have ran quite a dominant campaign and wrapped it up with sort of 2-3 races to go. But it did mean, for the first time ever in Formula 1, and the only time to date, we went into Abu Dhabi with a 4-way title fight.
Yes, although Hamilton was 24 points off. Yes. I mean, Abu Dhabi was insane just for the intensity of it, but again, the race itself wasn't that good.
No.
Like, you had Alonso and Webber, who were 2 of the main title protagonists, could not overtake Petrov in the 5th or 6th fastest car for most of the race, for 45 or so laps. And if that doesn't scream that there's a problem with overtaking, then yeah, I don't know. 2010, that was obviously a quality season, and I'm not denying that, but I don't know if it can go top 2. Because the race.
You've literally just said it was a quality season, and you're not going to put it in quality.
No, it was a decent season.
You're changing that now, are you?
I am.
Let's also not forget as well, of course, the last year of Bridgestone tyres before we're back to.
Bridgestone were horrendous.
Well, yeah, but they probably aren't much better, though, are they?
No, Pirelli at first though, people loved them until they started blowing up,
which was pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Of course, we also had looking further down the roster, just the absolute mammoth amount of backmarker cars that was stuck, in obviously old and new names. Heikki Kovalainen and Jarno Trulli got absolutely screwed, as well as Timo Glock, by coming from decent teams to being stuck in basically dustbins on wheels.
Yep.
Karun Chandok, it's always a good year when Karun's there. Bruno Senna, Lucas Di Grassi, of course, forgotten Formula 1 drivers, or Bruno Senna did obviously maintain a bit more of an F1 career down the line. And of course, Sakon Yamamoto as well. What more could you ask for than Sakon Yamamoto in a Formula 1 car? Every driver, though, Jamie, outside of those bottom teams, did score points, though, which is quite impressive.
Indeed, yeah. Some of them a few more than others. The Toro Rosso de Salva were pretty slow, but then Kobayashi did pretty well. And it's always, as there was that weird time on YouTube where putting Kamui Kobayashi in a title got you about 20,000 views.
There were a lot of Kamui Kobayashi fans. That was less than a year ago as well, which is kind of mad. So are we saying F1 2010, a 4-way title fight we only reckon was a decent season?
Yeah, but there's got a lot of competition. We'll get on to better seasons. Okay. Well, we can reconsider at the end briefly.
We can later on. Let's head over then, Jamie. Of course, like we said, 2010 was the start of a new era, but also the end of a new era in many ways. As we mentioned, DRS, ERS were both for 2011. Of course, we saw Sebastian Vettel become the youngest ever Formula 1 world champion. Would he be able to go back to back? No major driver changes, though, across the big teams. Of course, we did get the introduction, though, of Pastor Maldonado.
I knew you were going there.
Of course I was going to go there.
Yeah. And I think, what was it? Obviously, the Lotus car, or Renault became Lotus, but that's pretty arbitrary.
Yeah.
I mean, 2011, kind of the opposite of 2010, really, because this championship narrative was trash, because Vettel was so good this season. Probably his second best season of all time. And that ruined the championship, basically, because he'd wrapped it up so early. But the individual races, because of DRS and, well, basically the races that Vettel didn't win, they were pretty insane. And one of the best race of the decade, in my opinion, is in 2011 in Canada.
Of course.
So, yeah, the likes of Canada, China was really entertaining.
Yep.
Germany was pretty good. Hamilton, Alonso, Webber fight for the win.
Yep.
What else was all right? Yeah, not really much else. Japan was all right, actually.
Japan was
but
a good race.
I think it can't go above 2010, in my opinion.
No, it is kind of, again, we talk about how most people only remember seasons for their championship narrative, but obviously there were, a few other big talking points over the course of that year. Of course, the fact that Lotus/Renault, they got 2 podiums in the first 2 races of the year, and then were absolute dog poo after that, because of course they were the first team to experiment with the exhaust, wasn't it? Or they had the
blown diffuser.
They had the backwards exhaust, didn't they? Which
the blown exhaust gases, which was the big narrative of this season.
Which they accidentally perfected first time round, and they didn't even think they did. Which was quite funny, because then they couldn't improve on it. Of course, Nick Heidfeld was then dropped halfway through the season.
Really unfairly. He was ahead of Petrov.
Despite being better than Petrov, yeah.
Yeah.
But Russian money back then held its value. And then obviously Bruno Senna was brought back for the second half of the year, scored points once.
Yeah, and took out a load of drivers in Spa at Turn 1.
He did take out a load of drivers at Spa at Turn 1. That is certainly also
true.
True.
Looking at this, it was just very meh, wasn't it? It was just there. The races, I don't think I could put it bottom tier because of Canada.
No.
But it's, I think, tier 4. Okay, makes a lot of sense here.
Yeah, and of course we also had, Jamie, let's not forget, and it is going to pay me to mention this slightly, but without a shadow of a doubt in my mind anyway, Lewis Hamilton's only terrible Formula 1 season, and that's mad to say when he still won 3 races.
Yeah.
But as a driver, he was thoroughly outclassed by Jenson Button throughout most of the year, and him and Felipe Massa did spend a lot of the year just kind of rekindling their love of 2008.
I think it was 4 or 5 times they clashed on track.
5 races they came together,
which is pretty crazy. Obviously, India was the first year of Indian Grand Prix.
Yep.
The only non-Red Bull pole of the year was at Korea, actually, with Hamilton.
Yep.
After he just broke up with
Nicole.
I was going to say Shakira for a second, but that
Nicole
definitely wasn't
Shakira.
Lewis Hamilton. Yeah. Yeah. Red Bull again had comfortably the fastest car and actually didn't have that much reliability issues this year. So, yeah, it was pretty good time to be a Red Bull or Sebastian Vettel.
It certainly was. However, like we said, definitely not a better season than 2010. I feel like this one belongs in okay.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Although I did quickly as well want to pick up on a point you mentioned. I would honestly say 2011 was Sebastian Vettel's best ever F1 season across the entire year.
I think, yeah, it was very, very consistent, of course, and
he didn't finish. He finished off the podium twice
once.
all year, and that included a retirement in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, yeah,
and that was just 1/3 place.
So the German 4th place was pretty. That was a pretty mistake-ridden. I think 2013 he was just operating at a high level because he was destroying everyone weekly.
Okay.
And I know he was basically doing that here as well, but I would rank 2013 higher. But that's just me.
Fair enough. Let's go then, Jamie, to I think a season that is fondly in our memories. Not only because it actually was a good season, but also the narrative as well, of course, around it. 2012. 7 winners in the first 7 Grand Prix. What a season to be alive.
Yeah. To watch this season as it happened is an absolute privilege, to be fair. And for newer fans,
go back and watch the 2012
Go
review.
and watch it. It was incredible. And yeah, I mean, it's going to go and goated. There's no question of a doubt. You had so much going on. You had, 8 different drivers from 6 different teams won races. You also had Sauber should have won a race in Malaysia.
Yep.
Force India should have won a race in Brazil. So
well,
it very easily could have been
is a
8
bit stronger
teams.
for them.
Well, they could have done if they
crashed
didn't.
into Lewis, yeah.
If Alonso didn't ask for a safety car for no reason to make it more interesting, then he would have won. So
that is mad though that 8 teams could have won a race that year.
Yeah. And then I think 8 teams or 7 teams did score podiums.
Was it
which is
only
quite crazy.
7 teams? Perez got a podium. No, he was still at Sauber, wasn't he, that year?
Yeah.
Paul di Resta definitely didn't. Yeah, so it was 7 teams still got podiums.
Yeah. No one got back-to-back wins until the point of Vettel just deciding he was going to boss Asia and win 4 in a row. But yeah, incredible season. Obviously, the title fight, the finale in Brazil between Alonso and Vettel, both going for their 3rd championship, was one of the best races. Like, often with title deciders, they're fondly remembered because of the intensity, and they weren't actually good races. This was an insane race, and it was a title decider. There was so much going on. Like, you had Grosjean taking everyone out of turn 1 every race.
Yep.
Raikkonen was back. Schumacher was probably his best year of his return with a pole position.
I was going to say pretty much the opposite, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, 2010 and
he was plagued by reliability.
He was plagued by reliability as well, but when he started crashing into the back of people too often.
What, once?
It was more than once. It was.
What other race?
Everyone just remembers Spain.
The Singapore. Oh, well, there you go.
There we go.
Yeah, we remember 2 different ones then.
Yeah.
Okay. But he got the
he did get the pole at Monaco, which was
Monaco.
magical. But that was, I was going to
Valencia.
say, and the podium at Valencia, but I was going to say that was kind of, for Schumacher, like, he got thoroughly outclassed by Rosberg that year. It was definitely, the writing was on the wall, wasn't it, at that point? And, of course, as often is incorrectly remembered, one of the most defining races throughout the next decade of Formula 1, wasn't it? 2012 Singapore.
Really?
It was what everyone still believes is why Hamilton left
the trigger.
McLaren to go to Mercedes, despite the fact the deal had already been signed earlier on that week.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like the final nail in the coffin, wasn't it? But it was after Spa when Hamilton tweeted about the telemetry, or he tweeted a picture of confidential McLaren information.
He did, yeah.
And they got annoyed at him, so he was like, right, I'm off.
Yeah, he went off. He'd already decided by after the Italian
but the
Grand
McLaren was probably the fastest car that year.
Should have at the very least been in the championship fight.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
Hamilton
Hamilton's
had
second
so
half of
many
the year
reliability.
is just peppered with retirement win.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's always kind of weird, isn't it? You know, we sort of talk about the fact that Hamilton, you know, could have had 10 Formula 1 World Championships quite easily. This is often the one that's less remembered, that could have still gone the right way.
And they had so many slow pit stops first half of the year as well.
As well.
So combination of slow pit stops and reliability and a bit of bad luck in like Valencia got taken out. Where else? He got taken out somewhere else. Oh, I guess Brazil, but that was Glock's fault.
Plus, obviously, mechanicals at Abu Dhabi, Singapore that cost him 2 wins. You know, that could have easily put him on 240 points
Belgium
immediately.
turn 1.
Belgium turn 1 as well. It could have been another Hamilton championship that year, or at the very least a 3-way fight for the title between 3
Alonso
drivers and 3
going
teams.
toe to toe against Vettel in probably the 4th fastest versus the 2nd fastest car though. Insane.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Raikkonen doing bits in the Lotus as well.
Raikkonen just doing Raikkonen things was.
This season we should move on. We're waxing lyrical so
honestly,
hard.
If you haven't watched 2012, go back, watch it before the new season gets underway. It is an absolute gem, and it's going straight into quality. But of course, 2012 was
not quality. That's only second.
Sorry, goated. Yeah, even. 2012 though was the final season, Jamie, with 24 drivers though, or 24 cars. I should say.
F1 was worse off without HRT.
It was really much worse off without HRT. But 2013 was kind of a bit of a change, wasn't it? It wasn't the end. Well, it was the end of an era, but it kind of already felt like an era had come to an end heading into the year, didn't it?
Yeah, because you kind of had the big 3 teams of McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull for the last, I guess, like 3 years had all kept the same lineups and the same level of competitiveness pretty much, other than Lotus and Mercedes occasionally showing their head here and there. And suddenly that all shifted, that changed, and Mercedes were right there. Obviously, Hamilton made the move from McLaren to Mercedes. McLaren with Button and Perez just dropped off. They were battling Force India for a lot of the season. Ended up finishing 5th in the championship, I believe. Was it 4th?
I believe it was 5th place overall.
Yeah. And you still had Lotus right there. They were actually really good, and Grosjean especially, weirdly, second half of the season just suddenly remembered how to drive. 2013, again, the championship narrative was dead because Vettel just bossed it. But I do hold a special place in my heart for this season, just because it was quite fun, and the races themselves are very underrated, and people look at the whole narrative of the season and just think it was boring. But especially the first half, up until
the first half was quite wild.
Up until the point of Vettel just dominating the last 9 races in a row, it wasn't a close championship, but it was close enough to keep it interesting. So I'm looking at the championship after Hungary, which was the last race that Vettel didn't win. Vettel was on 172, Raikkonen 134. So what's that? 38 points, which is more than a race win, but it's not unreasonably far. And
Seb had literally clawed back a bigger gap the year beforehand.
Yeah. And then Alonso was 1 point off Raikkonen. Hamilton was 10 points off Raikkonen. So it was good. It was entertaining, certainly. The tyres they nailed it up until the point they got scared of Silverstone happening again. Because the tyre situation was really, really entertaining the first half of the year until they started exploding.
Unless you were Mercedes.
Yeah,
they weren't a fan of the tyres. Mercedes, of course, that year. Obviously, it's mad to think about, of course, because this was a Mercedes that had only won 1 Grand Prix going into that year, but they just started taking pole positions left, right, and centre, but then could just never win Grand Prix in the process, could they?
Yeah, no, they basically had to do an extra stop at every single race, or 2 extra stops, because these were the tyres where you could run them for as long as their lifespan, maybe 10 or 15 laps, depending on the track. And then they would drop off by 3 or 4 seconds a lap.
They basically,
it was
explode.
Insane. And Kimi Raikkonen was an absolute wizard in the first half of the year, just
that Lotus
keeping
was
them alive.
Very good, wasn't it? Was it James Key? I feel like his name was.
I think that rings a bell.
Obviously, that was how he won the Australian Grand Prix, wasn't it, at the start of the year? Because they were not a fast car. But
they did a 2-stop.
They did a 2-stop when everyone else had to do a 3-stop. And I mean, Kimi took 4 podiums in the first 5 Grand Prix. He was absolutely on it.
Qualified 7th in Australia and won on a 2-stop. That's mad.
Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. But of course, there were a few other things going on, of course, that year. We sort of speak about the championship narrative. And of course, unfortunately, what's forgotten is, of course, because Red Bull and Seb dominated, the battle for P2 overall on the constructors was very good. Mercedes beat out Ferrari by just 6 points, and Lotus had Kimi not gone away. Should have been in that fight right to the very end as well. Of course, it allowed Hamilton to jump Kimi in the Drivers' Championship by just 6 points, despite Kimi missing the final 2 Grand Prix and retiring from Abu Dhabi almost immediately.
Yeah.
But that all being said as well, of course, Seb's 9 wins in a row was
record-breaking,
quite iconic.
Yes, it definitely was. And the win at India, which secured the championship with him doing donuts on the main straight, is just iconography of F1, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's definitely better than 2011 for me.
I was thinking put it in decent with 2010.
Put it in decent, yeah. I mean, Nico Hülkenberg, shout out for beating Perez in a way slower Sauber than the McLaren.
Way slower, I think, is a bit strong.
I would say this is one of Hulk's best years in Formula 1.
I would as well.
This is definitely when he was at his peak. In 2014 as well, he was insane. But this is not about Nico Hülkenberg. That's just me. But who retired after this? I guess Webber left.
Mark Webber finally called an F1
Paul
career.
Paul di Resta retired and went on to Sky Sports.
Retired is a bit strong. Paul di Resta got dumped at the end of that year. Of course, then Daniel Ricciardo got the call up to Red Bull ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne, rather controversially in many people's eyes. Still not 100% sure how, but it is what it is. Oh, no, that was 2014 year after. Yeah. Sorry, ignore me. Esteban Gutierrez as well, of course, didn't leave or come back to Formula 1, but
he did.
No, sorry, that's what I meant. This wasn't like the end of his F1 career.
No,
my apologies.
No.
And it was
also his debut.
Heikki Kovalainen's last ever Formula 1 Grand Prix.
Wow, for Lotus at the end of the year.
2 races where Grosjean came second and he came 14th.
Yes, great job. But yeah, we move on to the turbo hybrid era, 2014. Here we are, and 2014 is not looked back on with much fondness, I feel.
No.
Because Mercedes ruined Formula 1 for the next...
Ruined is strong, but they did kind of destroy everyone. Yeah.
The fact that in Bahrain there was a safety car that ended with 10 laps to go, the Mercedes were going at it, like literally wanting to kill each other for these next 10 laps, and they still won by 20 seconds.
At that point of the year still.
Yeah, but like they were battling ridiculously hard,
but they were still good mates at this point.
Yeah. But like the fact they were able to battle that hard with 10 laps to go, and they still won by 20 seconds. It's insane. Mad. They genuinely had usually 1.5 seconds in race pace over the rest of the field, which incredible stuff. But it did.
But that also being said, unlike the Red Bull dominant years beforehand, Rosberg, for the most part this year, did put up a good fight against Hamilton.
He did. And he was also, I mean, they were both really unlucky. That was the one thing that let Mercedes down, was their reliability wasn't great.
Yes, yeah. What was it, 5 mechanical failures across the year, with obviously Rosberg as well, could have retired in Abu Dhabi, but didn't.
Yeah.
But apart from
so
that,
effectively 6.
Every other race they were on the podium, apart from Rosberg at Hungary.
Which he would have been if Hamilton wasn't so stubborn, but there we go.
He should have closed up and overtaken him. Of course, Hungary, we had the rise of Daniel Ricciardo to stardom. Of course, beating out Sebastian Vettel in his the reigning 4-time world champion in his team. Of course, Sebastian Vettel. A lot of people still, for whatever reason, believe that was just so he could go to Ferrari.
He deliberately made a stock fall to get a move.
Exactly. But just a bizarrely forgotten season as well. Of course, we've also got like you said, Hulkenberg had a very, very good year. Perez obviously got that podium in Bahrain. There were different narratives.
There was a kind of a new order, really, wasn't there?
There was.
Effectively, the big three was then Mercedes, Red Bull, Williams, which kind of Ferrari obviously came back, but they were the big three for the next, or the big four for the next 3 or 4 years, weren't they?
McLaren just were a bit far away from then on throughout a lot of the generation.
Really.
Yeah, and of course, Kevin Magnussen, podium on Formula 1 debut, still yet to get another one. But he did beat out Kimi Räikkönen that year, which is kind of impressive. That
is really impressive. Räikkönen had a really poor year. The Ferrari Hoover was not great.
No, it was a dog.
This is one of Alonso's better years as well. The fact he finished 6th in a car that really should not have been finishing 4th in the constructors.
No, I don't think it was any worse than the cars behind it.
It was probably level-ish with McLaren and Force India, but Alonso dragged it.
Alonso did bring it into a safe 4th that it probably didn't deserve that safety.
Yeah.
Did it? But I mean, 2014 then, where do we think it goes?
I'm trying to think, is there anything much worse than it? It's probably okay just ahead of 2011, I would go.
I think that's a fair assessment. That is a fair assessment. You just mentioned there about anything worse. I think there is potentially one candidate isn't there, coming straight up. And that is, of course, in the nicest way possible, Jamie, because Rosberg was just a bit mediocre that year.
He
had
was
bad
crying.
reliability as well. And Hamilton just decided, you know what, I'm gonna have my own sort of Sebastian Vettel style season.
Yes. Yeah. Rosberg was fairly poor this year, to be fair. But comparing him to 2014 and 16, this was definitely his worst year.
Yes.
But he also did get incredibly unlucky. Actually, not that unlucky. No, only twice, and Hamilton had it once. So, you know what? Maybe Rosberg should have stopped crying. But he did in the year after. But 2015 did happen.
Yes, it did.
Mercedes battered everyone. But they did have a few off races. Hungary,
there were chinks in the armour, wasn't there, in 2015?
Yeah. Hungary and Singapore were the first 2 hybrid era races to not feature a Mercedes on them.
Yep, on the podium.
On the podium, sorry. So, yeah, Sebastian Vettel really came back. His stock was back up to where it arguably was in 2013.
Yeah.
Absolutely bossing it in Ferrari that year. Was ahead of Rosberg briefly in USA in the championship.
Yep, going into the US Grand Prix.
Going into the US Grand
It
Prix.
wasn't about whether he could beat Rosberg, it was whether he could beat Sebastian Vettel, which is absolutely mad.
Yeah, 3 race wins and a pole position. So, yeah, very, very good stuff from Vettel. Raikkonen, obviously, slightly less good, but he was a lot better than the year before.
Yes,
Comfortable 4th in the end with Williams. Next up, 5th and 6th with Bottas and Massa.
And, of course, McLaren Honda. The absolute disaster that was Honda.
that Alonso somehow got a 5th place in Hungary.
And still finished behind Button in the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just a sea of retirements.
9th place in the constructors.
9th in the
Only
constructors.
ahead of Marussia, who were the backmarker team that year.
Madness. Absolute madness. Yeah. And, of course, the other chaotic story of that time that Red Bull allowed a 17-year-old to drive its Formula 1 car.
Yeah, what were they thinking there? I wonder what he's got up to.
Yeah, I wonder what he's done since then. Absolute madness, wasn't it? But I was actually watching back footage a few weeks ago, sort of previewing 2015, talking about Max Verstappen and just how young he looks.
Oh, I know. He's like a child. It's crazy.
Literally, it's the only time in Formula 1 history a literal child was given a Formula 1 seat. And just the fact that we really did not know how that was going to go, did we? Because he'd done one season of junior Formula. And this was
it wasn't even a full season, was it?
It was, in Formula 3. He got a lot of retirements, but the fact this was such a big gamble, and he still almost got 2 podiums that year. And of course, we were all asking, what happens if he gets a podium and he can't drink the champagne? Like, it's just something that Formula 1 had never had to consider before. And then, of course, he was outlawed the year after that. 17, you had to have a full driver's license.
Yeah, Max was so good they changed the rules, and that's been a theme of his career, really. So, yeah, his debut year, 4th place in Hungary, 4th place in USA. Just mixing it in places he should not have been, absolutely rinsing the midfield in a car that was probably the 6th or 7th fastest usually. Carlos Sainz also debuted next to him, very credible driver, but got absolutely rinsed by Verstappen.
Had bad reliability as well.
Quite bad reliability as well, yes. But yeah, it was a fun year, but the narratives just weren't there because Hamilton bossed it.
Yeah, it felt a bit more like there were a lot of storylines outside of the car rather than actual for good on-track battling, wasn't it? I think this was the problem with 2015. Are we placing it in mediocre?
I think it's probably,
It's probably the best candidate for mediocre, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think. Let's bring it over then, Jamie, to a season that...
Oh.
Yeah, here we go.
2016, what a year.
The luckiest ever Formula 1 World Champion. No, I'm joking.
Yes, I can shout about Nico Rosberg for weeks, so here we go.
You can, and I'm sure you will.
Yeah, his greatest year in F1, no doubt about that. This was a really, really good year. Like, the Mercedes was obviously incredibly fast. There was only one race, it probably wasn't the fastest car.
Yeah.
In Monaco.
Well, we spoke about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah, we did actually, but it was just their consistency. They're an absolute machine this year because their reliability had all but gone until Malaysia, which we laugh about.
Laugh is strong.
Rosberg won the first 4 races. Hamilton was just messing around, not really focusing properly, and then took him out in Spain. So
Rosberg
to stop the winning streak,
in Spain, yeah, you're right.
To stop the winning streak, Hamilton had to drive on the grass and take him.
Rosberg should have pressed the right buttons on his steering wheel.
Yeah, but the narrative this year, the points gap swung so much throughout the year. I think Rosberg was 43 points ahead, I think it was.
Yeah. After
the first 4 races. And then after Germany, which was the race before the summer break, Hamilton was back ahead by about 25 points.
No, he was. I don't think he was ever ahead, or if he was, it was only by a couple of points.
No, it was more than more than 7.
It wasn't, Jamie.
How many was it? Let me have a look.
Actually, you might be right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chart on Wiki.
Yeah, I've got the championship here. Hamilton was 217, Rosberg was 198, so it was 19 points.
19 points, yeah.
Which is pretty hefty. And then Rosberg came out from the summer break absolutely firing. 3 wins in a row, kind of helped by Hamilton starting from the back in Belgium, and then had a really bad start in Italy. And then Singapore was probably Rosberg's greatest ever weekend in Formula 1.
It often forgotten, isn't it? 2016 Singapore for Rosberg.
And then, obviously the Malaysian Grand Prix was such a swing. The points battle was so tight at that point. I think Rosberg was just ahead. Got taken out of turn 1 by Vettel, looking like it was going Hamilton's way, winning the race comfortably. Rosberg was coming back through the field, probably going to finish 4th or 3rd maybe. And then Hamilton's engine failure in Malaysia, which still brings a smile to my face, I have to admit. So,
that makes one of us. If that's how your boy needed to win a world championship.
Maybe Hamilton shouldn't have got 8 bad starts throughout the year. Then he might have been okay. Yeah, insane race and insane season, really. Verstappen, this was his first break onto the scene. Obviously, the debut race for Red Bull in Spain became his debut win for Red Bull in Spain, and then spent the rest of the year just doing bits. Was probably slightly off the pace of Ricciardo, but then that Red Bull, both drivers would probably come to be in the top 4.
That Red Bull wasn't great, and we've got to remember as well, we're comparing a Daniel Ricciardo with 5 years of F1 experience to an 18-year-old still.
Yeah.
This was still, Max. A lot of occasions this year he was far too aggressive. A lot of dangerous blocks and things like that were still coming in. But he was testing the waters. He was learning, and to be fair to him, he was making Formula One, albeit sometimes quite dangerous, very exciting as well on more than one occasion.
Yeah. Because usually you did have the Mercedes at the front, but the good thing was you had the Red Bull and Ferrari were so similar paced that you had a 4-way battle for second.
Yeah.
Well, third effectively.
Yes.
A lot of the time. And then you also had like the Williams Force India battle was going on in the midfield. The McLaren was sometimes okay. The McLaren Honda. There was so much good stuff this year.
And of course, there is only one good memory from the 2016 Malaysian Grand Prix, Jamie.
Jolyon Palmer's debut points.
The boy, my boy, he scored points. I got to give him a shout out, Jolyon Palmer there.
There we go.
With the one solitary point that year.
Hulk should have got a podium in Spa, but they red flagged it because don't know why. It wasn't really good enough reason, I don't think.
You can't even remember, can you?
No, it was Magnussen absolutely.
Oh yes,
losing it at Faux Rouge.
That was a
which is pretty dangerous.
Crash. Big crash.
Yeah, it was just a very, very good year, and obviously Rosberg knew it wouldn't happen again, so quit. And fair play to him.
Bailed out immediately.
Yeah, lives in Hamilton's head rent-free till this day.
I'm not convinced by that. I think if you ask Hamilton what's your thoughts on Nico Rosberg, he'd probably go, Nico who?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird year, isn't it? Because, again, this is probably one of 2 examples, isn't it? And of course the other one we'll come back to later on, of where Hamilton should have come from behind to win the title, but something out of his control takes it away. But that also being
he
said,
shouldn't have been behind in the first
place. He should not have been that far behind anyway through his own mistakes, because this was probably the year that he needed to have to be as dominant as he was throughout the next few years.
Without 2016, he doesn't batter Vettel out of the park in the following years.
Exactly. He did just spend a bit too much time partying in the first half of that year, but also proved, come the second half of the year, or especially when the chips are down still, that when Hamilton wants to win and dominate, Hamilton can still win and dominate, as he did in those final 4 races. But that being said, Rosberg did do everything he needed to.
Absolutely. And we love him for that. And it's going quality. And I don't care.
It's not going quality.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. But you're not seriously suggesting that season is better than 2010. You are.
I genuinely would rather watch 2016.
That. I would put it between 13 and 14. Are you serious? I'm not saying that F1 2016 was a better
Sorry, what's the
year.
other one in decent?
Decent is F1 2010, 2013.
It's better than 2013.
Okay.
I'll settle for it being between those 2.
We'll put them between them. That's fair.
But
we'll
personal tier list, it's in quality. I would love to watch this.
This isn't a personal tier list. Otherwise, 2015 would have been goated.
Yeah. Hamilton's best season. No, it's not his best season.
It's not. 2017 though, Jake.
Speed up.
We should. Of course, we saw Mercedes dominate these 3 years prior. A bit of a change up, the second generation of the turbo hybrid cars. Obviously, a lot more downforce, the quickest Formula 1 cars of all time, and, far more importantly, we got 2 of the best of a generation duking it out to really prove who is better.
Yeah, and this was especially the first half of the season, insane championship battle, really.
No one won back-to-back races until the second half of the year.
Second half of the season, yeah. But yeah, the first half of the season was insane. I would argue the Ferrari was slightly faster. Maybe like straight line speed, the Mercedes always had the edge.
Yeah,
but in terms of overall,
the thing, isn't it? The first half of that year had a lot more high downforce circuits, which helped Ferrari.
Yeah.
But I think 2018, their car. I feel like 2017 Mercedes had a slight edge. 2018 was the year Ferrari should have won rather than could have.
Yeah. And Vettel was first 7 races, even including Canada where he was off the podium, was on top of his game. This was peak Seb, other than 2013. Like 6 firsts or seconds at the beginning of the season was insane. Well, Hamilton had a really off weekend in Russia and Monaco as well.
Yeah.
And then Baku happened, and Baku was one of the mentalist races of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And from that point onwards, I feel like Hamilton always had the mental edge, because if you don't know what happened, Hamilton was accused of brake testing Vettel behind a safety car restart,
which was proven that he didn't, based on the telemetry.
Proven he didn't. Vettel got annoyed that he crashed into the back of him, pulled alongside, and then sideswiped Hamilton. It was obviously very low speed, no damage really done. But from that point onwards, I felt Vettel was kind of mentally lost the game already.
You still always wonder to this day what happened behind the scenes down at Ferrari after that, because we've never seen that side of Sebastian Vettel before. And to be honest, we never... Well, no, we had on a couple of occasions, hadn't we? I think it's always the shining example. Was it 2016 Mexico?
Yeah,
wasn't it?
He lost his head there.
Where he told Charlie Whiting to F off.
He lost his head there. He was really impatient with Ferrari in 2016 because the amount, they would try and undercut thin air.
Yeah,
often.
Exactly.
They probably threw away 3 wins that year. I mean, I know we're talking about the year after now, but he was quite unfortunate to be working with Ferrari for so long. And we see this with drivers at Ferrari. They just get worn down.
Yeah. And then, of course...
this was really... Yeah.
The second half of that year, once Hamilton and Mercedes got into their stride, we talk about Baku, but again, the big defining moment from that championship, and probably for the rest of his career, honestly, for Seb, was Singapore, wasn't it? That would have been an easy win for Seb.
Yeah, qualified on pole, Hamilton down in 5th.
Mercedes did not have a car that weekend. That should have been at least an easy 10-15 point gap for Sebastian Vettel to gain.
But he tried too hard to stop Verstappen getting by.
Yeah.
And proved costly in the end. And also that race, Nico Hulkenberg should have got a podium again. But
he ran out of air.
The car ran out of air.
And it was also another fantastic race because my boy...
Jolyon Palmer's best result in Formula 1.
of the 2017 Singapore Grand Prix, Hamilton and Palmer 1-2. You love to see it. You love to see it. Special shout out as well to Jenson Button for trying to kill Pascal Wehrlein in Monaco that year.
Yeah, that's 3 weeks in a row that Wehrlein's got a shout out.
It is. He's doing well. He is doing well. He also won Formula E at the weekend, so hats off to him. He did. 2017, of course, then after the Singapore Grand Prix, we had Malaysia, where Ferrari had, I think it was a few minor technical difficulties, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in qualifying that with that in Q1.
Japan, obviously, Seb then just went balls out.
Got done in by a spark plug.
Oh, no, that was 18, wasn't it? Sorry, 17 was spark plug gate. And then he did get a win at Brazil late on, but it was too little too late. And I honestly forgot how close Bottas was to Seb at the end of that year.
Yeah, Bottas, this is probably his best year in Mercedes,
it was his best year, yeah.
First year in Mercedes, and really, after a bit Britain... obviously the Mercedes they were very close after Britain, which was Bottas finished second, Hamilton won, but Bottas retired in Spain from third place in the race.
Yep.
Had he not had that retirement, he'd have been ahead of Hamilton in the championship.
Yep.
Which is quite crazy.
Absolutely mad because Hamilton, again, this was another year where he traded off a win with a mediocre result.
Yeah, he had a few off weekends in the first half especially.
Yeah.
It was... The narrative was good. The races again when
the whole thing was high downforce was going to create better battles, but it didn't. It took the cars completely the wrong way.
Well, all the engineers knew it wouldn't.
Exactly. But that being said, this was the first generation of Formula 1 cars in a long time that looked cartoonishly fast over a qualifying lap, and that was quite special.
These were the most beautiful cars of all time.
I was going to say that as well. These were some of the best looking Formula 1 cars of all time.
Apart from the shark fins and the coat hangers on top.
The shark fins
when
and the
they
coat
started
hangers
coming in
could have been dropped.
But the launch Mercedes, the W08, I think it was, without the shark fin and without the coat hanger, incredible.
Yeah. A good looking car.
Yeah.
Let's bring it over then, Jamie. 1 year later, to be honest...
Where are we going? Where are we putting it?
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. 2017, I feel like belongs behind 2013.
Yeah, I'd settle for a low, mid, decent, high, okay.
I was going to say, we'll put it in okay just to keep things balanced, but it's a
Yeah.
top okay. A top okay season. 2018, though, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? Because it was kind of 2017 2.0.
Yeah.
But the narrative was kind of the same, but better, but also therefore more predictable.
Yeah, we kind of saw it before, but the Ferrari was more consistently on the pace of the Mercedes.
Ferrari had this, like we said, 2017 was the year
car.
Ferrari could have won. 2018 was the year Ferrari should have won.
Yes, and also Red Bull were a lot closer to the front too, so they did mess it out with Ferrari and Mercedes.
Let's also not forget, Jamie, there was a little thing going on down at Toro Rosso that year, wasn't it? They taken on a new power unit supplier, which proved to be quite important in the years leading after.
McLaren finally binned off Honda and then realised they hadn't built a good car either for 3 years.
Yep.
Honda went to Toro Rosso and the rest is history. So there we go. Really good season in terms of narrative. Again, up until the second half when Hamilton just stopped messing around.
Pretty much. We both actually, wasn't it, saw Sebastian Vettel's last ever legitimate Formula 1 win.
We did.
At Belgium.
When we met each other for the only time.
We did, the only time we've met.
Which is, 6 years ago now?
5, Jamie. 4.5.
5 years. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice. Good counting ability there. But again, this season swung on Vettel making a mistake, which, was kind of what we got a bit sick of seeing in these couple of years of Formula 1. Because, Germany should have been the race where Vettel absolutely stamped his authority on the championship.
Exactly.
And threw it away in the wet conditions.
I remember, even to this day, after Austria, talking to our good friend Jack Walker, and after
Britain.
No, after Austria. It might have been after Silverstone, to be fair. But we both were there going, it's over. Mercedes aren't going to win this year.
I remember thinking that as well. Like, after Silverstone, and especially after Germany qualifying, when Hamilton had the failure and was qualified 15th.
Push the car.
Yeah, which was just ludicrous still. I don't know what he was thinking.
Made for a good shot, though, didn't it?
It did. But Vettel on pole, Hamilton 15th. Vettel's already got a hefty lead in the championship. I thought that was that, and Vettel's going to run away with it. But it all swung on a wet day in Hockenheim. Hamilton winning from 14th by ignoring team orders and refusing to pit. And Vettel, retiring from the lead of the race.
With a crash.
With a crash from the lead.
The first driver to do that, I think, wasn't it since like 2004 or something like that?
On his own,
yeah.
Because I guess Hamilton took himself and Rosberg out in Spain. But
not quite what happened, but okay. But 2018, of course, other things to remember. Kimi Räikkönen trying not to get himself invited to the FIA Prize Gala by retiring from Abu Dhabi, but still was able to beat out Verstappen and Bottas, of course.
This was the beginning of Super Verstappen, I believe.
Yep. Also, Ricciardo's frustration with Red Bull after 2 quality wins in both China and then Monaco.
Yeah. I think from Belgium onwards, Verstappen scored the second most points.
Yeah.
In the third fastest car still at that point. So, he was on 5 podiums in 5 in the last 5 races. So
the only driver to do
that. The only driver, on the podium in the last 5. So he was really the only threat to Hamilton because, again, much like 2017, Ferrari started having a lot of problems.
I
this
think
was Spinola, wasn't it?
Was a bit wrong in the second half of that year.
Wait, what am I? Oh, I'm thinking the year before. Yeah, never mind. Because I'm thinking Japan, where Verstappen just randomly rocked up right behind him on the last lap, having not been anywhere the whole race.
Yes, yeah.
Vettel started spinning for fun this year, which is always
he took up that hobby.
Good times.
Later on in the year.
What was it? Italy and Japan and USA.
And USA, yeah.
3 out of 5 races just deciding to spin.
Going for those pirouettes.
Wheel combat.
And then,
also, take your eyes down to P13. Got a little debutant.
Yeah,
there.
I was going to mention that as well. A certain Monegasque driver made his F1
he was doing
debut.
really well.
And
look
at that in the final few races. From Russia onwards, 7th in every Grand Prix unless he retired, which was best of the rest.
Yeah, he was quality, and the Sauber was good.
Apart from, I've just realised Abu Dhabi, where Sainz beat him.
Yeah, but still, to finish consistently, comfortably top 10 in a Sauber that was definitely worse than the Force India and the Renault this year,
and the Haas.
And it was probably similar-ish to the Haas.
Haas.
Oh no, this was Haas's great year, wasn't it? No, it definitely wasn't.
Well, great is a bit strong, but very good year.
Well, it was their best.
It was
They
their
should have finished
best year.
fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many Hulk missed podiums were there this year? Was it Germany? Oh, that was the year after. Never mind. I don't think there were any. Fair play.
No, Hulk was just mediocre that year.
But still beat out
He
Sainz.
did just beat out Sainz, you're right.
The fact you can finish 7th on 69 points in a 19 race season
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, the top 6 were just gone in this era. But yeah, I think this season was very enjoyable, and the races always had something going on.
Yeah. Where are we ranking it, though? Better than 17?
Better than 17 in my eyes. Probably only just.
Yeah. We'll put it one place above 17 then. We'll lob it into decent. 2019 then, Jamie, after a couple of fantastic years, wasn't it? Kind of went back to the old narrative, at least for the first half of the year. With, of course, Mercedes absolutely dominating again.
Yeah, 8 wins out of 8.
Although, to be fair, I'm not saying they shouldn't have. It was helped by Ferrari bottling a couple of those races early on in the campaign.
Yeah, definitely. And it's ironic that the first race that Mercedes didn't win, when Ferrari definitely had the second fastest car, Max Verstappen was the one to put an end to it, and he was absolutely on it this year in what was definitely not the second fastest car.
I don't think they were far away. Don't think they were far away. Of course, 2 retirements for him, 2 retirements for Charles Leclerc. Of course, got bumped up to Ferrari and instantly beat Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah,
which is kind
where
of
have we heard that one before?
Yeah. Of course, I was then trying to look to find out where 6th finished, but then remembered, of course, this was the year Gasly and Albon swapped halfway through.
Yeah.
So Carlos Sainz snookered 6th place in a battle for P7 in the championship, which is kind of mad.
He did. And the McLaren were back this year after they got rid of Alonso.
Yep. Absolutely key.
They suddenly remembered how to make a car. Little Lando Norris made his debut in P11 in the championship.
Yep.
Along with George Russell and Alex Albon. 2 of which have... No, they haven't. 1 of which has won a race since.
Yep.
But based on this season, you wouldn't have guessed which one.
Nope.
And really, really good year, I think. Obviously, the championship was basically done.
The return of the Kubica.
Yeah.
Which, although he was pretty dog poo, and I know Polish fans are going to hate to hear that. That being said, though, the fact he was able to come back to Formula 1, I've still got a lot of mad amount of respect for him for that.
Oh, yeah. Crazy good. And technically, he did beat his teammate.
Not technically, he did beat his teammate.
He did beat his teammate.
Through a solitary point at the German Grand Prix.
Yeah. There were some amazing races in this. This was kind of when F1 realised what they had, I think, if you get what I mean. Like, the previous 2 years, or 3 years or so, were quite dull, and the fan base was not that big. I think the rise of Verstappen, the DTS,
this was
made its
Liberty
debut.
Media, their first proper
Liberty
year
Media.
in control.
And kind of from Austria onwards, we had a run of crazy good races in a row.
Yeah.
And then, F1's never really looked back since. And arguably, the entertainment factor went a little bit too far. But they're doing quality still in terms of growth and fan base and all that kind of stuff. So I think really F1 2019 will live well in my memory, at least. The narrative wasn't there, but the races individually were quality.
I was going to say, I think the last thing to mention, of course, as well from that year was Ferrari's spicy engine, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. A couple of illegitimate wins, including Charles Leclerc's debut win in Belgium.
Yeah. Of course, kicked Sebastian Vettel in the nuts by winning the Italian Grand Prix a week later in his first attempt for Ferrari, something that Seb had been trying to do for years.
While Vettel spun out for no reason and finished 13th that race.
He spun out twice, didn't he? And then almost took out Stroll. Was it only once? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to take out Stroll, and then Stroll complained at him and did exactly the same thing to someone else.
Gasly, that was, in the Toro Rosso. But yeah, really, really good season. Vettel's stock was declining rapidly. So many mistakes this year.
The same can be said for Pierre Gasly, though.
Well, his stock had never really climbed.
It had after 18.
Yeah, it was good, but it wasn't. I mean, it went higher.
Sebastian Vettel, but
no,
it was still
no
the Gasly struggle, wasn't it? That first half of the year.
Oh yeah,
where we really started to appreciate just how good Ricciardo was at Red Bull,
and Verstappen was.
And how good Verstappen was, but of course the fact that the team was completely geared around him. The fact that had already happened when Ricciardo was still there, and Ricciardo was still able to give him a decent run. But yeah, of course, An interesting year. I mean, where are we ranking 2019 then, Jamie?
I feel like it's going to go decent again, but we've not really got any inequality, have we?
No, we haven't got any inequality yet, but I think that's fair still. I think that is...
Bump up 2016.
No, I'll bump up 2010 into quality.
We'll wait and see about that.
Are we saying where are we putting 2019 though, relative to these?
Behind 2016.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
No championship battle this year. Hamilton just won.
Let's go then, Jamie. 2020, of course, was a very, very weird year. I think it'll be one that we'll end up telling our kids and our grandkids about for, sadly, a lot of the wrong reasons, isn't it? Of course, the COVID year. But, that being said, and is often forgotten because of how dominant the Mercedes was, a really brilliant year in the midfield, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You basically have Mercedes, Verstappen, and then everyone else. And that was kind of it. And yeah, it was really, really entertaining because basically other than the Mercedes and Verstappen in the Red Bull, genuinely the other next 8 teams were all on the same pace at some points in the race season. You had some crazy good races, the likes of Austria to kick the season off, the Italian Grand Prix.
Yep.
Gasly's
of course. Redemption, wasn't it, that weekend?
Yeah. Sakir Perez's first ever F1 win from last to first.
Perez, the second half that year, was an absolute baller.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, he also was in a Mercedes.
Yeah, Force India / Racing Point did cheat a little bit at this point.
Turkey. That weekend,
Turkey was
Stroll's
really
first pole, and then Hamilton crowning himself a record-equaling 7th World Championship.
Hamilton equalled the win record and beat the win record this year as well.
He did. Just a couple of weekends prior.
Really, really good all round, really.
And, of course, we've got to give a shout out as well, to all the cool tracks we had that year that sadly...
Oh, yeah.
We didn't. I mean, Imola came back, none of us thought that would happen. Turkey came back, of course, none of us thought that would happen. Portimao, I think, deserves another shot. Nürburgring came back, and even, and I know it wasn't a great race circuit, but... Mugello was a fantastic...
Oh, yeah.
That, I think,
qualifying
goes down
Mugello
for a lot of people as that'll be a moment that sticks in people's head, was that Hamilton pole lap going through all the Arrabbiata corners, and of course the Spa lap as well. A record-breaking, absolutely ridiculous car that was Mercedes at the peak of their power, wasn't it? 2020.
Yeah. But sadly, again, we got no championship.
We didn't get a championship battle because Bottas was, after Austria, pretty mediocre. He obviously showed back up for the Russian Grand Prix, but
as he always did,
spent a lot more of the year battling with Verstappen rather than battling with Lewis.
Yes, yeah. Podiums all round. I think 7 teams got podiums this year.
7 teams got podiums.
Ferrari's worst year in their history.
Well, not
Probably.
in their history, but
not quite.
One of their worst years in their history. Sebastian Vettel, in his final year with Ferrari, of course, he already got dropped before the season began. 33 points to his name, compared to Charles Leclerc's 98. Sainz again, managing to finish P6 in a fight for P7 in the championship.
Nope, that was 2019.
No, 2020 he finished P6?
No, I mean, he got his first podium, but he didn't.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was going to say, he finished P6, of course, in 2020 as well. Then Ricciardo, managed to get Cyril irritable with his tattoos. Of course, 4 different teams with wins that year as well, which was the first time that had happened since 2012 or 2013? 2013. So a lot going on over the course of 2020. Yeah. And I think, like we said, he's kind of forgotten for the wrong reasons for a lot of people, but it was a very, very good year.
Well, much like a lot of this time, a lot of entertaining races, but sadly no narrative.
No, exactly.
But it depends what you want. I'm all for the better races and worse seasons.
I would quite happily go back and watch the 2020 season review.
Oh yeah.
Where are we placing it?
I just think 2016 is too low. I'm gonna be honest.
No, it's not. Don't give me that.
Oh, there was no championship at all, but the races were alright, weren't they?
There were a lot of good races.
I mean, it's around 2019, isn't it? Really, but
I feel like
stick 2010 up.
Like we need to bump 2010 up.
Yeah, do it, and stick this just ahead of 2019. I would say.
That's fair. I'm agreeing to that. Here we go then, Jamie.
Here we go. This is the one.
I mean, it's quite easy, isn't it, this one? It's a question of whether it's better than 2012 or not, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
F1 2021. Of course, a lot of storylines up and down throughout the season, but it will be remembered for Max versus Lewis.
Yeah, definitely. And we've done a whole year worth of podcasts talking about this season.
We did do a whole year worth of podcasts talking about this season.
We don't massively need to go into it.
We can go through these last couple quite quickly, can't we, I think?
Yeah, this season was incredible. Incredible. The two absolute superstars of Formula One that will be the best of their generation, who going at it hammer and tongs every single race. It felt like they were getting together. And controversy, it had like magical seasons,
it had
magical
drama, controversy.
You literally
intrigue.
couldn't have written it any better.
If you'd written this script for Hollywood, someone would have said that's too far. And sadly, it felt like by the end of Abu Dhabi that a script had actually been written for the end of the year. Unfortunately,
I enjoyed it.
I know you did, and unfortunately, this is the only thing that does ruin it slightly was had Max Verstappen done that move in a way like Hamilton did with Glock in 2008, best season of all time without a shadow of a doubt.
I would agree with that.
But the fact it had to be manufactured slightly still does, and again, I will hold my hands up and admit that part of that does come from the fact that my driver was robbed at the end of the day. But for me, that is why I would just put it behind 2012.
Yeah, I think 2012 was better because it felt a bit purer.
2012 was all natural right to the bitter end, apart from Schumacher letting Vettel by. But that didn't make any difference.
But that was his own choice. That wasn't the FIA telling him.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Incredible races, incredible season. Verstappen's first championship of many.
And another one where Hamilton should have come from behind to take the crown. That he didn't.
He didn't. There we go. Cry about it. We'll move on. 2022. 2022, the most recent season, and to be fair, it was
Let's be careful
no
not
narrative.
to give it bias tax.
Yeah, obviously you're going to look back on older seasons with more generally.
I was actually going to say because this year was more recent, we'll remember more from it.
Oh really? I guess. Yeah, but it just the narrative wasn't there.
It wasn't.
A lot of the races
great.
were okay, but it wasn't great.
There were a lot of, to be fair, a lot of teams were fourth best, but there was so much hype about how this year could completely change up everything, and we still just had those big three teams that have been there for quite a while, and everyone else behind them trying to fight.
Yeah. It felt like a more normal, like late 2010s year, which, as we've established, were not always that good.
No.
And the races themselves were less entertaining than the years of 19 and 20, I feel, because the gaps between teams were a lot bigger.
Because Hamilton didn't have a car that could fight Verstappen. And unfortunately, Charles Leclerc on occasion could, but Ferrari were useless again. And Charles Leclerc was not great on quite a few occasions. He wasn't perfect.
As well. I think 22 probably goes in okay.
Yeah, it's where we put it
odd.
Okay, isn't it?
I'd settle. I think it maybe is the best of those that are in there.
You reckon it's better than 2017? They're a similar storyline, I suppose.
There was a bit of a story, especially first half. Because just laughing at Ferrari every week was quite fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, only up to a certain point though. By the end of the summer break, it just got frustrating more than anything else. I would be honestly inclined to put this between 14 and 11.
Yeah, I mean 2022. Yeah, it won't go down in history in the memory, but it will go down in history because Verstappen had a record-breaking year. Yeah. I'll be 13.
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'll be 18. I don't
19.
know.
18, 18 no, 19 wasn't it, I think. Was it? 18, 19? Who knows? It was a Red Bull.
The Red Bull was fast.
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's not a particularly iconic car, though, still. Like, we can't even remember what it was called.
It just won a lot of races by chance, it felt like.
It did, yeah, it was helped by that, wasn't it? And I mean, I think we both still would argue that the Ferrari F175 should have gone down as an iconic Ferrari, but of course it won't.
Yeah, because they completely bottled it on numerous occasions.
Entirely. But there we go then, Jamie. I think, honestly, looking through that list, I'm quite happy with the order we've got there. I'm not seeing any outliers on that list, to be honest.
I am. I'd like 2016 bumped up, but I'll settle. I can take it.
We can bump it to the bottom of quality, but
all right. Do it.
Doesn't really make much difference. Doesn't really make much difference. An interesting era of Formula One, wasn't it? Of course, split into two real halves, but that was good fun nostalgia. I think that was always what we wanted from this podcast to be.
We knew we'd ramble, and I hope you enjoyed it.
We have the better part of an hour and 15 minutes, and it does also mean, Jamie, we can give ourselves on a pat on the back, because now, really, we've survived the winter break.
we have.
We've made it. We've done it. We've dragged it out.
And we've got another idea for next winter when we can do the 2000s to 2009 version.
We can, yeah. We've got
podcast
perfect. Sorted till about 2030 now for one show each winter. But there we go then. I don't think we've got anything else to mention, have we, Jamie?
I don't think so. Let me just
we've done
check
pretty
Twitter
well.
real quick, because we've been talking for ages.
We have been speaking for quite a while. Nothing's been confirmed. Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for listening then. If you have enjoyed, please do make sure to leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we will be back finally next week. 2023 car reveals. We've got Haas, we've got Red Bull, and the last one, I've lost my list. I can't quite remember which was the third team. But
there's another team as well.
There is another team as well. It's going to be a surprise. Let's claim that. But thank you all so much for listening, and we will be back next week then with more Knowing Wheel.